Hey everyone, it's your boy Zero, and you know what time it is. It's time to talk about my top games for 2022. It's been a long time coming. I've been sort of pushing it off because I wasn't really sure what I wanted my list to look like, but you know what? I think I finally got it down to a fine little science. I got this nice list ready to present, so let's get right into it. Before I start talking about my top 5 games for 2022, I want to talk about some of the games that I didn't get to play but I really wanted to play. I'm going to call this list the games I should have played in 2022. So the first game I really wanted to play during last year was Sonic Frontiers. Now, I'm a huge Sonic fan. You guys have probably seen on this channel, we played quite a few Sonic games. Sonic Mania being one of my favorites. And then of course, Sonic Generations, freaking Sonic Adventure. They're great games, and I love Sonic 3D games. I know they're not the best, but I like me some 3D platforming. When I saw Sonic Frontiers, I said to myself, all right, it finally looks like Sega's getting back on their feet. It looks like they're finally getting their ideas straight when it comes to making Sonic into a 3D game. It looks exciting. Our buddy BioZ Venom seems to really enjoy it, especially the music. So I kind of feel like I cheated myself in not giving myself time to both get the game and then also play it. Next up is Elden Ring. Elden Ring hit the scene hard. People started playing this game online and everyone started losing their mind over it. It's an open world adventure game that's very, very difficult, and you would think that a game like that wouldn't do too well nowadays. Surprise, surprise, everybody loved the challenge, especially all the world exploration that comes along with the challenges. I felt very, very, very jealous of people who had the time to go ahead and play it, try their best against these bosses, show it off online, show the game off to everybody else. It looked like a lot of fun. One of these days, I'll finally get on Elden Ring. They just announced some DLC for Elden Ring, so maybe that would be the best time to jump into it. Alright, now let's talk about Pokemon Legends Arceus. At the time of release of Pokemon Legends Arceus, I was still playing through Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, or however the heck they called it. I never got to play those games back when they were released. I didn't have a Nintendo DS when that game was released, the original ones. So I figured, all right, they're finally remaking it. They're adding a few cool new features. Let me get into this, let me play it. And I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed my time with it. However, it takes me a while to get through Pokemon games. I can't just sit there for hours on end, going to gyms and stuff, catching different Pokemon and just being like, all right, I'm gonna do this for 5 hours straight. I can't do it. So I took my time with the game. While I was playing through it, of course, Nintendo decides, all right, it's been 2 months, let's release another Pokemon game. Pokemon Legends Arceus being open world, which is something that I've always wanted in a Pokemon game, and having different mechanics on how to catch the Pokemon, collecting them, using them for certain things. The battle system looked a little bit different. It looked very interesting to me, and it was frustrating. To me, it seems like Pokemon Legends Arceus should have been left for later last year, and maybe giving the next 2 Pokemon games, Scarlet and Violet, a little bit more time. But hey, again, Nintendo will Nintendo until Nintendo stops being Nintendo, you know? So I'm pretty sad I didn't get to try this game along with my friends when it was released, but hey, maybe sometime in the future, in between Scarlet and Violet and the next entry, I'll try it out. All right, next let's talk about God of War Ragnarok. Now, I've only ever played the very first God of War game. I played it on the PS3 because I got the HD versions for the PS3. It's a very solid game. I intended to go straight into the second game and then continue going onward. However, other games distracted me, Uncharted, Pokemon, Digimon, Street Fighter, etc. So I never really gave God of War the time of day. Everyone's losing their mind over Ragnarok. I recently, last year actually, I got a physical version of the God of War reboot for the PS4, and it's a game that I'm intending on playing before I go into Ragnarok. So when that time finally comes, I'll finally play Ragnarok. It feels like a shame that I don't get to play it around the time that everybody else is. Okay, let's talk about Horizon Forbidden West now, because once again, another Sony exclusive that everybody's losing their mind over. I remember back in 2017 when it was released, everybody was enjoying the game. It looked really amazing. Horizon Zero Dawn, it's a new adventure exploration game that speaks to me. But once again, I did not play it on release because I was playing other games and also working on the YouTube channel at the time. A couple years later, I got the digital release of it along with the extra DLC on my PS4, and I intended to play it as soon as I, had some free time. But then of course more games kept coming out, and now we got the sequel, and now I have those two in my backlog to still get through. It looks amazing. I do want to try it out, and the day will come while I do play it. All right, now I'm gonna lump these two together because it makes sense to me. So that's gonna be River City Girls 0 and River City Girls 2. Mash and I love River City Girls 1. We played through the whole game after trying it out for a showcase. It was supposed to be a one-shot. And then we said, oh my God, this game is just too much fun. We love the pixel art, we love the voice acting, the side-scroller beat-em-up gameplay was very tight, it was really fun. All the extra moves you can purchase as you continue through the game were amazing. All the little hints to other brawlers and other fighters and stuff like that, I loved it. Callback to previous characters from previous games is also amazing. So of course I want to go back in time and play River City Girls 0 and see where this franchise comes from. And then of course I want to play the sequel to it, River City Girls 2. Both of them were released last year. I was hoping to get a physical copy of River City Girls 2. However, that's not going to be a thing unless they do another run of it, because it was a single time run for physical. But I will get it digitally at some point in time. I can't wait to play it. Hell, we might even put it on the channel in the future. Stay tuned for that. Alright, well that concludes my list of games that I wish I played last year. There's probably a couple more that I probably should have mentioned, but they don't come to mind right now. But now, before I continue, I want to talk about the worst game of last year. That game is going to be Sonic Origins Collection. Man, Sega really dropped the ball on something that should have been a no-brainer. The Sonic Origins Collection reminds me of that time back in the mid-90s when Sega tried to keep the Sega Genesis alive by releasing some sort of attachment at over $100 at around the time where they were going to release the Sega Saturn. It was just a couple months away. It made them look greedy, and it made them look stupid. It made them look like they're out of touch with the gamers. So when I saw the Sonic Origins Collection, I thought to myself, what the heck is Sega thinking? It's not necessarily the worst collection on the planet, but what they tried to do was pretty sinister. You're gonna get Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Sonic & Knuckles, which is technically one game, and then of course Sonic CD. So that's about 4 or 5 games in one collection, not necessarily bad, but they want to charge you $40. Now keep in mind, these games have been re-released multiple times already on the PS2. We're talking about Nintendo consoles, Xbox as well. They've been re-released on Steam. Hell, you can even play them on your phone. So it begs the question, why the heck do they want to charge you so much money when all you have are these few games? Not to mention, yes, Sonic 3 is finally re-released because it hasn't been re-released in a while, but some of the music had to be changed, and we still don't know why they had to do that. It's actually quite baffling because Sega knows how to do good collections. I've bought one of their collections before on the PS2 called the Sonic Mega Collection Plus. Now on that collection you have Sonic 1, 2, 3, you have Sonic and Knuckles, you also have a plethora of Sonic games from the Game Gear, and you also have a bunch of other Sega Genesis games tacked onto it, alright? So we have Sonic platforming games, pinball games, racing games. You think it's probably in there, plus all those other games like Rystar and Comic Zone. Sega knows how to do good collections. So it kind of throws me in for a loop when I saw the Sonic Origins collection, and to top it off, they decided, hey, how about we add DLC to it? Give us an extra $5 for these 2 pieces of DLC so you can hear different music from other Sonic games, and to see an art gallery. Sorry Sega, that ain't it. I have no idea why you guys thought it was a good idea to paywall all those little extra things that should have been in there from the beginning. Not to mention $40 for those few games. Sorry, but you should have packed it in with a few more games. Why not all the Sonic platforming games from the Sega Game Gear? Why not Knuckles Chaotix? Why not Sonic 3D Blast to sweeten the deal for those $40? It just doesn't work, and it makes Sega look greedy. But hey, hopefully they get back on their feet and they don't start acting this way. All of these reasons is why I give Sonic Origins Collection the worst game of 2022. Alright, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's talk about my top 5 games for 2022. Number 5 is going to be Kirby and the Forgotten Lands. Now, I don't want to call myself the biggest Kirby fan out there. I would actually call MASH that. But I do enjoy myself some platforming games. And seeing Kirby finally put in a 3D platformer was quite nice. For those of you interested, we actually played through this game on our channel, and I gotta say I had a really great time with it. One of the things that actually made me enjoy the game the most was the fact that both MASH and I were able to play through the game completely together, co-op. It's one of those small additions that makes a good game great. Experiencing a platforming game, a 3D platforming game at that, with one of your best friends is one of the best things you could ever ask for. The buddy mechanics that they added into the game were great, being able to share each other's health, being able to help each other using different abilities. Kirby's abilities in this game, by the way, were ridiculous. All the little things you could do, all the little secrets that you can help each other find inside these different worlds, inside of Kirby Forgotten Lands, was genius, and it only made the co-op gameplay even better. The small little challenges you would also find inside the game, especially the driving challenges that MASH and I seem to enjoy, were also a great touch. I am a sucker for boss rush mode, and I actually like that they added boss rush to Kirby Forgotten Lands as that little bit of extra challenge you can do post-game. It was a nice little addition, something that I really enjoyed seeing. Kirby's new Big Mouth mechanic was also quite funny, having Kirby suck in these huge things, like of course the car that I mentioned earlier, using traffic cones to solve different puzzles and stuff like that, making Kirby into a gliding kite thing, which was also pretty cool. I got to ride on top of it and shoot my spears while basically helping MASH get through certain areas. And then you also have this thing where Kirby swallows a big O-like thing. It could either be a literal circle or maybe even a letter from a sign, and you can use it to make wind, sort of like you push back on the mouth and then you push like a propeller and it opens up a door or whatever. Those are nice, great touches that I actually enjoyed in the game as well. The only thing that actually frustrated me in this game was the fact that it was a little too easy. Now, I'm not saying that the game is completely easy, but it kind of felt like the developers were holding your hand throughout the whole experience, save for maybe 2 bosses. This game would have been higher on my list if the challenge would have actually met my expectations, but it's still a great game nonetheless. It's time to duel, because my number 4 pick is going to be Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Oh boy, I've been a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan since the beginning, ever since the anime premiered back in 2002, and then shortly after the card game. I was like one of those crackheads at 7-Eleven. I was hooked on this stuff. I sort of fell off of Yu-Gi-Oh! Shortly midway through college because it started feeling like the game was becoming pay to win. It's one of the things that kind of kills certain games for me, especially certain free-to-play shooter games, card games. I start falling off of them once I start seeing that, oh, I just pay this much and then I win. It starts to really annoy me. However, being able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Wherever you want, using an app on your phone or on your PC and online with your friends, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna jump back in and I'm gonna start playing the game again. Konami finally listened to us, because this is something that we've been asking for years. We've had to rely on third-party, maybe not third-party, but fan-made applications to be able to play online with our friends if we didn't have a webcam. And not to mention all the special effects that they added to the game, where the cards actually move up on their own and start attacking your opponent's cards. You start seeing these flashes and explosions. Sometimes the card art basically appears on screen and starts to move whenever you do one of their effects or something like that. It's quite nice to see, and it makes it very entertaining. I spent hours playing this game. I played online with random people, I played online with my friends, and I'm not the biggest fan of gacha mechanics when it comes to certain games, especially card games like this, where basically paying makes you win. But I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed the mechanics where you can just take a normal card, a rare card, a super rare card, what have you, make them into in-game currency, and then basically either create a card you need or buy more packs and start getting more stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I have a little bit of a gambling problem. You guys probably seen me open Digimon cards on this channel, so it is something that I did enjoy doing. I loved recreating the decks that I would use in real life, like my Gemini deck and my Red Eyes deck, and of course, my Joey Wheeler deck. You know I gotta play that. I was having a blast with the game. However, just like most other people, the effects started wearing off shortly after, about a month or 2 in, which is quite disappointing because, again, as a gamer, I want to be able to play a game, even a card game, and still hold my ground. It started becoming very difficult because I would create these decks, go online, try unranked and ranked, and then just get completely curb stomped over and over and over again. That whole feeling of pay to win started getting to me again, and I unfortunately dropped off. However, it's still a game that I really enjoyed, and a game that I spent countless hours on for about 2 months just playing with friends. It's something that I'm likely going to revisit in the future as I give myself a little bit of time to replay some of these card games. I'm still playing through the Digimon card game because it still hasn't gotten to that point where pay to win is the only way to win in that game, at least not for me. It gets the top 4 spot because I spent a lot of time with it, and yeah, it holds a lot of nostalgia for me as well. So that's why Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel gets 4th. Alrighty, it's getting hot because now we're on number 3. My third best game of 2022 is the Capcom Fighting Collection. Now, fans of this channel already know that we love fighting games. Heck, we even spent an entire month back in July just playing different fighting games from back in the day 2 times a week. It was something that we really enjoyed. It was nice to revisit a bunch of fighting games that we don't see anymore. Heck, I even used this collection to show off Darkstalkers 3. It's an awesome collection. This is what Sega should have looked at when they were trying to create the Sonic Origins collection, because Capcom got it right. Now, instead of just giving us 2 or 3 games and charging $40 for it, Capcom decided to give us 10 games. Let's read the back of this thing. We got Darkstalkers 1, 2, and 3. We got 2 special versions of Darkstalkers 2 and 3 called Vampire Hunter 2 and Vampire Savior 2, which were Japanese only. We also finally got a console release of Red Earth. We also got Super Puzzle Fighter 2. We got Cyberbots, which is a robotic fighting game, mainly focusing on robot mechs and stuff. I think it looks pretty awesome. I haven't seen that on a console before. We also got Super Gem Fighter, which is quite nice. I actually like how that game works. And we also have Hyper Street Fighter 2, which, for those of you who don't know, is basically every Street Fighter 2 game squeezed into one game. And basically, this, depending on the character you choose, you can choose a different version of that character from the very first Street Fighter 2 to Super Street Fighter 2. So those are 10 amazing games, but they didn't stop there. They added online multiplayer with them. They added a training mode to them. These are arcade perfect versions, by the way. So you don't usually get a training mode with them. It's nice to get that. You also get awesome borders that you can see on the side. You have a multitude of options for that. They even gave you options for filters like scan lines, which I'm starting to really appreciate when it comes to old games. Capcom also added this awesome little mission thing called Fighter Rewards. Basically, these are small missions that you can take up and start to go through depending on the game you're playing. This is awesome because it gives you an extra little thing other than just going online or going through the arcade mode. And then of course you have the art gallery. Look at that, Sega, they didn't put it behind a frickin' paywall. This is how you make a collection. This is worth more than $40, and this is why I enjoyed it so much. Hopefully, due to the success of the Capcom Fighting Collection, we'll finally see a new Darkstalkers come out. Maybe Capcom will give us another awesome collection, this time focusing on their 3D fighters. I would love to see a collection of that because I would really love to see Rival Schools 1 and 2 come back into the fray with online multiplayer. That game is just so much fun. We played it on this channel and you can go watch it here. Speeding through to number 2, my number 2 pick is going to be Gran Turismo 7. I've been a huge racing fan ever since I started playing racing games back on the PS1. I was given Gran Turismo 2 as a Christmas present and I loved it. The graphics on a PS1 for Gran Turismo 2 were amazing at the time. The controls were tight and I loved the idea of just being able to choose whatever car was available, especially in the arcade mode, and just race against whatever ghosts I had there, maybe beating whatever challenge, or just racing against my brother or my friends. Then of course I got Gran Turismo 3 for the PS2, and once again, Polyphony just upped the ante. That is one of my favorite racing games of all time. Gran Turismo 2 just looks amazing, it plays amazing. I love the license tests that you can go through. Those are nice little missions you can try to beat, which allows you to do more and more difficult races as you progress through the game. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I actually fell off of Gran Turismo after Gran Turismo 4. Not that it was a bad game, but I didn't like the direction they were going with it. Gran Turismo 5 was pretty nice. I played it on the PS3, but I didn't even bother getting Gran Turismo 6. Gran Turismo Sport brought it back for me. It was a lot of fun. I liked the emphasis on competition and being able to race against your friends online. And then they outdid themselves again with Gran Turismo 7. We initially played it on the channel on our PS4 Pros. It's a really awesome game. The graphics already look amazing, but my God, when you put it into a PS5, it's a step below realistic. That's how good this game looks. Music Rally was a new little mode that they added into the game where you basically try to race through a track while listening to certain types of music. I don't remember the names of the song because I only played it a handful of times, but it was nice that they give you something different to do. The length of the race is the length of the song, and you have to get through certain checkpoints to get more beats into the song so that you can actually complete it. It's a nice little challenge that they added to the game. Now let's talk about the controls, because once again, Polyphony knocked it out of the park. This game feels tight. Every car feels different. You can even go into the nitty-gritty and tweak every little piece of that car to fit your needs. You're gonna need to, because every race is different. Every race requires a different car. Every race requires a different modification that you're gonna need. You probably need to weigh down your car, not weigh it down, but reduce the weight. You need to change the tires of your car at some point. Hell, they even have turbo. You can add a turbo component to your car. Now let's talk about the GT Cafe. The Gran Turismo Cafe is this one little hub where you go to so you can get missions. I love games that give you something else to do other than just the regular gameplay loop. The GT Cafe, like I said, gives you missions, and you also get a bunch of information about the cars that they're talking about at the time, or the cars that you're going to be collecting. Gran Turismo turned itself from a car simulation game into a car collection game that also works as a simulator. It's something that actually intrigued me because I like playing Pokemon. I like collecting card games, so why not collect cars as well? As you go through these missions, every race you complete within the mission rewards you with a car. You just need to get 3rd place or higher. Once you collect those 3 cars, complete the mission, and you usually get a reward, usually in-game money, or some sort of lottery ticket, where you can win another car or more in-game currency. I'm not gonna lie, I got addicted to doing these missions. Not to mention, you still have all those different licenses that you can try out for, which again is another sort of mission mode that I enjoyed. And then you have regular race challenges that you can do as well. Polyphony really put their all into this game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that I'm an expert when it comes to cars, so I really liked it when Polyphony added this awesome little thing called performance points, shortened to PP. You can use performance points as shorthand to let you know how good the car is or how well it performs. Higher performance points obviously means that the car is better. Usually means that it has better acceleration, better handling, more speed, etc. It takes everything into account. Whatever tires you're using, what weight the car is, what kind of engine has inside of it, have you modified the engines, did you change the muffler? Every little thing can adjust the performance points. They also come in handy when you play online with friends and family. I played online with my cousin-in-law, and we were both trying to decide which car to use from our garage. So I suggested looking at the performance points. We both selected cars that were within the same range, and of course, that helped us a lot because it made the game a little bit more challenging. God forbid you choose a Bugatti and then your friend or cousin-in-law or buddy or whatever, significant other, chooses a regular Nissan. There's no way they're going to be able to compete. So the performance points is really awesome. It's really good shorthand to help people understand how good the car is. Now, Polyphony is coming off of Gran Turismo Sport, and they're still maintaining that competitive edge to this game because they even run tournaments inside of Gran Turismo 7, which is awesome for those people that really like to race, but don't like to put their lives on the line. All in all, I had a great time at Gran Turismo 7. I spent countless hours playing that game, collecting all the in-game currency, collecting all those cars, and finally getting one of my favorite cars of all time, the gosh darn DeLorean. Heck, I even raced against a DeLorean inside of one of the in-game races, and of course they put Emmett B as the racer of the DeLorean, which I thought was amazing because that's Dr. Emmett Brown from the movie Back to the Future. Those little tiny touches, those awesome missions, and the amazing graphics and gameplay is why Gran Turismo 7 gets second place. Alright, it's coming down to the wire, but before we talk about my best game of 2022, let's talk about some honorable mentions. Alrighty, now my first honorable mention is going to be Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Believe it or not, I actually do like Borderlands. It's quite a fun game. I like the quirkiness of it. So when I saw that Tiny Tina was getting her own little spin-off, that's more of a Dungeons and Dragons type of game, which I also like to play from time to time, I said, yo, sign me up. Me and my buddy Gamers, AJ, for those of you who are longtime viewers of the channel, and also AJ, if you're watching, we gotta finish this game soon, buddy. We played this together, and I loved the idea. You're playing as one of these characters around the table with Tiny Tina. She's always interjecting with her fun little quips and stuff like that. They switched out a lot of the guns for more like crossbows and stuff like that. You're using more spells in this game as well. Kind of like one of my favorite spells, of course, was throwing down a meteor and stuff like that to kill your opponents, freezing them, electrocuting them. It's a lot of fun. I also enjoyed that little overworld dungeon crawling thing that they did, because instead of just being like a regular open world, you sort of have this little hub thing that you play on, where your character gets turned into like a little chibi character. You walk around an actual table that has Cheetos puffs on it, bottle caps and stuff, blocking your way, and you have to sort of figure out a way, finish a mission to open up that area so you can get to the next open world shootout area and kill these enemies and stuff. That was a nice touch. The game was indeed a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed my time with it, especially while playing online with my buddy AJ. However, nothing wowed me. After a while, the niche of this game starts to wear off, and it starts to appear more like just another Borderlands game. And I had just finished playing through Borderlands 3 and some of the other in-between games that I played before as well, especially during the initial pandemic. So going through Tiny Tina's Wonderlands kinda left me wanting more, wanting something a little bit even more different than what it already was. It's not a bad game per se, but I think they could have done a little bit more to make the game more interesting and of course, more memorable. Alrighty, and now my next and last honorable mention is going to be Digimon Survive. Now this may come as a surprise, but I'm a huge Digimon fan and I love great stories, and Digimon Survive is both of those things. I enjoyed exploring the world. There's a lot of nice little things you can find, awesome items you can use during the battle system inside this game, and also a lot of dialogue, a lot of story, a lot of plot just oozing out of this game. You get to speak to all these characters, get to know them, you get to answer their questions, and basically form a path throughout the game to help you play the game a little bit better and also develop the story further. What makes this better is that all of those things are wrapped up in a nice horror game package. Digimon Survive is a horror game, and I actually think Digimon can do really well in a horror themed setting. Digimon has a plethora of really scary looking creatures that would actually lend well to a horror theme. So seeing a spider-like Digimon like Dokugamon or Arukenimon as one of the villains in this game is quite nice. They're very sinister. Devamon, easy. That's an easy villain to have inside this game, an easy thing to use as a villain as well. Digimon has a tactics-like battle system. You have a huge grid that you can actually see in 3D, and you can actually move the camera around and choose your Digimon, your group of Digimon, and have them walk around and fight these other evil Digimon that you're fighting. Another cool mechanic is being able to communicate with their specific partner, which usually gives them an extra power-up, allowing them to move faster, maybe go up an extra few levels more, giving them more strength, more speed, more defense, maybe even healing them. It's an awesome little mechanic. Another thing I enjoyed about this game was the fact that you start out with a small world with a nice little story leading up to it, and then it expands the further you get in. However, this game does indeed fall short. Now, Digimon Survive is known as a visual novel game. For those of you who don't know, these games are quite popular in the East. Basically, you're reading and playing a novel, which is actually quite nice. I like myself some comic books. This is basically a combination of both. There's quite a lot of text to get through. You have to actually answer some questions or basically suggest certain things for characters, giving you branching storylines, sort of. You get different endings depending on which selections you make. Unfortunately though, that is most of the game. Like I said, visual novel, so you're gonna be reading quite a lot. I would say that's about maybe 70 to 80% of this game. Basically reading through a bunch of dialogue and making selections. Now, of course, you do get to move to different areas of the game. However, there is no 3D overworld. Everything is presented as 2D images or art. Of course, the battle system is there to break up the monotony, and you do get to explore these areas, these 2D areas, look behind bushes and stuff, find items and stuff that'll help you throughout the game, or maybe solve a way to open the next area up, help you during battle. It's nice, but it left a lot to be desired for me. I personally found it a little bit difficult to push through all of that text and then not being able to walk around, not being able to find certain things, not to be able to do something else. Not to mention the battle system itself is quite bare bones. Sure, you have those awesome little mechanics that I mentioned earlier, but that's about it. Like, of course, you get to digivolve your Digimon, and depending on how you speak to other characters or how you conduct yourself through these conversations, you get different evolution lines. But that's kind of to be expected with Digimon. Hell, I actually kind of think they did that a little bit better, being able to get the different evolution lines in the Digimon World games and the Digimon Story games. I personally think that if they put a little bit more effort into the battle system itself, giving you a few other mechanics, maybe being able to train your Digimon to get the evolution lines you want, while also giving you story-specific evolution lines, depending on the options you choose and the lines you spoke to the characters in the game. And also giving you an open world to actually explore, not just images. Give me like a 3D environment to walk through. Give me puzzles to actually solve, not just text on a screen. I would have been able to squeeze out a little bit more joy out of this game. However, it wasn't created to be that kind of game. It was a visual novel first and foremost, and I still wanted to play it, and I still enjoyed my time with it, just not enough to put it on my top 5 list. Alrighty everyone, we finally made it to my top number 1 game from 2022. Drum roll please. My top game for 2022 is going to be Pokemon Scarlet. Okay, whoa, wait a minute. Don't start throwing rocks at me, let me explain. I know this is sort of a controversial pick, but hear me out. I'm a huge Pokemon fan. I've been a huge Pokemon fan ever since the anime premiered back in like 1997 or 1998. I also wanted to experience Pokemon on the go with a Game Boy, but I never had a Game Boy back in the day. As a matter of fact, I wasn't able to enjoy Pokemon on the go until Pokemon X and Y. It kind of felt like I was redeeming myself all those years later, finally with my first handheld, the 2DS. I loved Pokemon X and Y. I love the fact that they brought back the Gen 1 Pokemon and gave them these awesome Mega Evolutions, which only made the game a little bit more interesting. I did get to play previous games in the past. I got to play Ruby and Sapphire as well, but I emulated those. It was my first actual adventure through the Pokemon universe in-game, and I was still watching the anime at the time when I played Ruby and Sapphire. So, when it came to Pokemon, I wanted a game that gave me that actual feeling of exploring the world, actually walking to these far off distant areas, these mountains, these rivers, these caves, these valleys, the desert and stuff like that, instead of being more of a dungeon crawler like the older games are. Now, of course, Pokemon Arceus did that for a lot of people already. It gave us an open world Pokemon game. However, it wasn't a proper Pokemon game. For that, we had to play Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And you know what? For me, this game actually delivered. Now, when I say a proper Pokemon game, I'm talking about being able to go through all these gym challenges, going through the areas, actually walking through every single part of the world that you see while going towards that area. And you had a lot to do while doing it as well. Another thing that made these gym challenges even better was the fact that they added a new mechanic to this game. I love the Mega Evolutions from Pokemon X and Y, and then of course the Ruby and Sapphire remakes. Unfortunately, I was frustrated to see that they didn't bring them back for Pokemon Sun and Moon. As a matter of fact, I didn't like those games as much. And let's not even talk about Sword and Shield. But at least in this game, they added an awesome mechanic called terrestrialization. Now, I've mentioned this before, this isn't the first time Pokemon has added new mechanics. I mentioned it already, X and Y added Mega Evolutions. In Sun and Moon, they added a special attack move for Pokemon, depending on a crystal you used. I didn't really like that. I kind of felt like that was lazy. And then Sword and Shield had this Gigantamax mode, which, in all honesty, to me, it just seemed like a different version of Mega Evolution. Just bring that back. But at least terrestrialization sort of gave me a good mix of all of that. With terrestrialization, depending on the Pokemon you catch, because each Pokemon is different, you get to turn them into a completely different Pokemon type. So in this game, if you bought the game early, you're able to get a Pikachu that can transform into a flying type, which gives you access to flying moves. And I thought that was pretty awesome. It changes the typing of the Pokemon, so that way in mid-battle, if you're facing a Pokemon that's really good against your Pikachu, let's say a rock type, not a rock type, a ground type Pokemon, you can change it to a flying type and now you have the advantage. That's pretty cool. They added that to the gym battles. So if you're fighting the bug Pokemon will change to a fire type and now you have to deal with that. And I think that's pretty cool that they added that to every single gym. Another thing I enjoyed was the fact that you don't only have the gym missions to go through, you actually have 2 other story missions to go through as well. The gigantic Pokemon mission, and then of course you have Team Star. Now, I like the fact that each one is different because, again, like I said before, you have the gyms. We already know how that works. But with the gigantic Pokemon, there are 5 of them, and you can actually capture those different Pokemon as well. Usually the weird looking ones. I got that weird Donphan looking thing, the prehistoric looking one. I don't remember what it's called. It's not actually called Donphan or anything. You're able to capture those specific ones, and each time you complete one, it actually upgrades your riding Pokemon. Mine is called Koraidon, and Koraidon works more like a horse, sort of. You use it to get to all those far off distances a lot faster. Beating every single one of those missions allows Koraidon to be able to glide, makes him faster, makes him be able to jump higher. It really opens up the world more as you complete these different gigantic Pokemon missions. Then you have Team Star. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a fan of how Team Star conducted themselves. They just seemed like whiny kids, if I'm being 100% honest, while also acting like sort of bullies, kind of weird. But I did like how you had to complete the mission, because instead of actually going through regular Pokemon battles, which will indeed get annoying after a while, you do this special thing where you take 3 of your Pokemon and you toss them out and they just run around the world defeating the enemy Pokemon on their own. You get to heal them as they battle, obviously, which is quite nice, but it gives you a different sort of gameplay, which I really appreciated. I'm also a huge fan of the new area that they added in this game called Paldea. For those of you who don't know, Paldea is actually based off of Spain. This is basically Spain, but in the Pokemon world. And as a Hispanic gamer, I loved seeing it, especially all those little hints to Spanish culture in there, like using certain words like buenas to say hello to someone, or just usually saying hello or like be careful or whatever in Spanish. I like those little hints. It really spoke to me as a Hispanic, and I loved seeing it in Pokemon, a genre that I actually really like. Now in Paldea, you also have Paldean versions of previous Pokemon, which I actually like to see as well. One of my favorites was, of course, the Paldean Tauros. Tauros, however, is sort of a pain in the ass because they're very difficult to catch. Now, I understand they're supposed to be. They're based off of the Spanish fighting bull, which makes sense because the Paldean Tauros is a fighting type, but I'm telling you, these guys are fucking assholes. I must have gone through 3 different Tauruses trying to catch them, and I would get them down to red health, and these assholes just would not let themselves be caught. Now, of course, I did the whole Pokemon Scarlet and Violet trick, where you throw a quick ball at the very beginning and you usually catch high-level Pokemon, but Tauros was not having it. Tauros would break out of those balls every single time, And every time I would get it down to yellow health or red health, I start throwing Pokeballs and it keeps breaking out, I paralyzed the sucker, I would poison the sucker, still broke out. This thing wanted to die. It would rather die than let me catch it. When I finally caught a Paldean Tauros, I was so frustrated and angry with it that I said, all right, I gotta call this thing a different name. I usually like naming my Pokemon, so I wanted to call it Cabron, which means asshole or bastard in Spanish. But of course, Nintendo wasn't going to let me do that. So I had to come up with a different name and give it a different spelling. I called him Hijueputa, basically son of a slut or son of a bitch. I found it pretty funny. I think it's a pretty awesome name for a Pokemon that was just so freaking frustrating. And to top it all off, there are different versions of Paldean Tauros, like a fire and a water type version, which I'm not 100% sure on how to get yet, but that's also pretty cool to see. Another amazing thing that I loved about this game was the fact that you can actually play online and go through the story with your friends. For the love of God, this is something that we've been asking for years, and finally we get a game, an open world Pokemon game where we can explore it together like we always wanted to do, like they did in the anime, but now in the actual Pokemon universe. The Terra Raid battles are an awesome addition as well because it gives you something else to do with your friends while playing online. Battling this huge Pokemon, sort of like how you do in Pokemon Go when you're battling gyms, and being able to take it down and then be able to catch that certain Pokemon with that awesome terrestrialized version that it has. I thought that was an awesome addition. The new Paldean Pokemon, especially the starters, are quite nice too. Speaking about the starters actually, it took me quite a while to warm up to them. In the end, I chose Fuecoco because a little fire alligator type Pokemon is quite nice, and his final form, his third evolution, was quite nice too. I like the whole ghost fire typing that he had, and again, it was a design that I really enjoyed. I like the dolphin Pokemon that they added in the game. I like the fact that they, again, the world is just open. You can see the Pokemon interacting with everything as if they were actually living there. Game Freak really put their all into this game, and it shows. However, it did have a lot of problems on launch. A lot of people ran into game-breaking bugs. They would fall through the world, graphical glitches, gameplay glitches, you name it. These glitches were quite hilarious, actually. I thought they were pretty funny, but in my playthrough of the game, I didn't really run into many of those glitches. The main problems I fell in while playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were a bunch of slowdown whenever a bunch of the NPCs would appear in the world, or some minor graphical glitches like the grass not coming in when it's supposed to, or like the geometry of the mountain in the distance changing a little bit as you get closer and stuff. Those are the main issues I dealt with while playing Scarlet and Violet. Now, of course, my experience is not going to be the same experience for everybody else, so I'm speaking from my experience. And from my experience, I gotta say, Game Freak did well. I enjoyed this game. Even with its flaws, I really enjoyed playing through it. I played through with my younger brother. I played through with other friends online as well. This is how Pokemon should be. I want the next couple of entries to mimic what Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have done. And also, why not bring back Mega Evolutions? I think that was the best mechanic they could have ever brought, while also keeping the terrestrialization for the next few Pokemon games. That would be awesome. Hopefully Game Freak keeps updating this game and fixing it to make it the best version it can be post-launch, obviously. And at the time of recording this video, they actually announced new DLC for this game as well, which you know very well I'm going to go ahead and get because, again, I enjoyed my time with this game. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet brought something to me, brought something to the gaming landscape, something that we've been wanting for over 20 years. A game that lets you explore large paths, large areas, mountains, creeks, rivers, caves with your friends online while still catching Pokemon, beating gyms, and trading with each other, and also battling gigantic Pokemon as well. This is something that Game Freak should have done a long time ago, and I want to say they did pretty well. Obviously, Nintendo should have given them more time to fix the bugs, polish it a little bit more, make it a 2023 game instead of shoving it into 2022. But still, you can tell Game Freak put their all into this game. That's why I'm giving Pokemon Scarlet and Violet my #1 spot for best game of the year for 2022. And that's going to do it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you for tuning in. If you agree with my list, let me know down in the comments below. If you disagree with my list, also let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what games you think should have been my top 5 games. Do you think I should have switched Pokemon and Digimon in the list? Let me know. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more awesome content because coming up next is going to be MASH's top games from 2022. Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.